hotels can be a great fun place for vacation, it can also come with some scary experiences. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Kennedy, and today we are counting down our list of the top 10 unsettling things people spotted in hotels at night. Starting us off at number 10. Cameras. A woman came to Texas for what she believed was a legitimate job interview with an IT service provider, but instead she found herself being recorded in a hotel room booked for her by the man claiming to be the potential employee's CEO. The woman said that the man booked the room for the night and he checked in before her arrival. She suspects that when he put a video camera disguised as a clock in the room. After she was in the room and had started getting undressed to get ready for the interview later that day, she said two men walked into the room unannounced. The men told her they thought the room was vacant and left almost immediately, but wouldn't tell the woman why they were there. There was just a gut instinct that something wasn't right. "I just knew I was being watched," she said. After looking around the room, the woman noticed the digital alarm clock had a quarter-sized camera in the face. She unplugged it and took the back off, and minutes later got a call from the supposed CEO asking her if everything was okay. She told the front desk, and hotel staff moved her belongings into the new room, and the woman called the police. She didn't hear from the man again and said when police tried that same day calling a number he'd given her, it had been disconnected. The woman is now suing the man for intruding on her privacy and causing months of mental anguish, according to the lawsuit. And honestly, I hope she wins because that is scary. Next up at number 9. Shadow figure. A Reddit user said, "I used to work in my aunt and uncle's hotel in a Scottish village about 12 years ago, and the freakiest thing that happened to me was one night when I was sleeping in the staff quarters and heard a banging noise from along the corridor. This was about 3 a.m. after most of the staff had gone to bed. I got up to go and tell whoever was coming in late to shut up so I could go back to sleep, but the corridor was empty. Well lit, I have to add. This is key. So I walked down to the end of the corridor to see if it's folks coming up the stairs, drunk or whatever. I look down to see a figure stomping up the stairs. The only way I can describe it is as though a shadow of a person that was solid. There were no features on the face or clothes on its body. I turned and ran back to my room and shut the door. I could still hear the stomping for some time, and I don't think I got a wink of sleep at all that night. I didn't leave my room until the sun was shining through my window. I asked a few of the other staff if they'd heard the banging that night, but nobody else had." Moving on to number 8, the phone call and break-in. An online user posted this story saying, "My father was staying at some crappy Motel 6 in a shady area of town. His room was the last room at the end of the hallway on the top floor. In the middle of the night on the last night he was in town, he was woken by the phone ringing in his room. It was the front desk, and they said something along the lines of, 'Sorry to wake you, but we've been receiving a couple of reports about rooms being broken into and some stuff being swiped. We're just calling to make sure you lock your door and are safe.' My father replies that he's fine and hangs up. He decided to go double check that his door is locked. As he sits up in bed, he notices that the door to his room is ajar. Being spooked, he cautiously checks the room and finds that nothing is missing and no one else is in the room. He creeps to the door and peeks out. Sitting right outside his room on the windowsill of the hallway window is his shaving kit. Creeped out of his mind, he quickly grabs it and locks the door. After he calms down a bit, he calls down to the front desk and says, 'Hey, you just called me about the break-ins around the hotel, and I just want to report that my room was broken into when I was sleeping. Nothing taken and I'm fine. Figured you'd like to know.' The front desk replies, 'You must be mistaken. We never called your room and we haven't received any reports of break-ins.' Creepy. Moving on to number 7. Scary woman. This Reddit user said, "I once stayed in room 410 of the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco. Woke up in the middle of the night needing to go to the bathroom and saw what appeared like a decaying woman with withered flesh and a blue-white glow at the foot of the bed, seeming to stare at me, in spite of having eyes that were just black sunken holes. It was so terrifying I passed out. Woke up in the morning and told my girlfriend at the time about it when she came over. She laughed, and when I asked why, she said she booked that room because the hotel was supposed to be haunted. That room specifically, and she was using me as a blind test case to see if it was true. Ended up staying there another 3 nights without anything odd happening. Next up at number 6, room 217. Stanley Hotel is very haunted, but one of the most haunted rooms is room 217. The room is thought to be haunted by Elizabeth Wilson, aka Mrs. Wilson. She was the hotel's head housekeeper, and during a storm in 1911 was injured during an explosion as she was lighting the lanterns in room 217. She survived, though broke her ankles, and her spirit seems to be a regular in the room. Guests have reported items moved, luggage unpacked, and lights being turned on and off. Oh, and Mrs. Wilson is old-fashioned. She doesn't like it when unmarried guests shack up together, so some couples have reported feeling a cold force come between them. Now, this is where horror writer Stephen King spent the night and got the inspiration for his 1977 bestseller, The Shining. When King and his wife arrived at the hotel, it was closing down for the season, and they were the only overnight guests staying there. They ate dinner in an empty dining room while pre-recorded orchestra music played before retreating to their room on the spacious and eerily empty second floor. King woke up that night to a terrifying dream about his 3-year-old son being chased through the corridors and screaming. Due to this, he jerked out of bed, realizing it was a dream. He lit a cigarette on the balcony, and the plot for his now famous book shaped up. Coming in at number 5, employee disappeared. This user tells a story from when they were young. They said, "I was once in a hotel with my sister and we were walking through the halls. Then we decided to have fun and see what staff doors were open. We got into the weight room, it was 3 a.m., supposed to be locked, and started screwing with the weight equipment. Just as we were about to leave, this one employee gets up from the dark corner and walks out in front of us. We rush out just to see him walk down the stairs. Still in the mood of adventure, we head to the stairs and see her going down and down. She went to the basement and then gone. The stairs ended in a cut-off area and there was nowhere to go, but she was gone. Creeped out, we took a zigzag path back to our room, not to be followed." Next up at number 4, housekeeping. A Reddit user said, "I worked housekeeping in a chain hotel. There was one room at the end of the hall where the faucet would turn on full blast by itself while anyone was working in there. I'd be cleaning the room and suddenly hear water gurgling down the drain. Another time I was working on the tub and heard it turn on behind me. Whoever or whatever it was would also turn on the TV. I was warned on my first day that things would happen in that room, and then while making a bed, I'd suddenly hear muffled voices and see that the TV was on. Whatever part of the room my back was to, it felt like someone was there. I got the feeling they didn't want to be in the way, but they didn't want to be alone. Quote, none of the staff felt threatened. We all felt that the entity was lonely and trying to reach out. The hotel has since been bought by a college and was turned into dorms. I hope having people staying in the room more steadily will be a good thing for whoever that spirit was. Maybe they felt less lonely with students actually living there than a revolving door of hotel guests." Moving on to number 3. Shaking door. This hotel worker said, "I was working late, just past midnight, when I went to use the bathroom in the lobby. It was a pretty standard, large men's bathroom with urinals and sit-down stalls. I was the only one in there, and I went to use one of the urinals. As I was peeing, I heard a rapid knocking sound coming from behind me. I looked and saw the door from the handicap stall vibrating, which was what was making the knocking sound. It was like someone locked the door and was shaking it. I figured it was a coworker playing a prank, so I laughed and said, 'Very funny.' It immediately stopped. I walked over, knocked, and the door swung open. No one was inside. I ran the hell out. Quote, "There was no way the door could have made that noise without being locked. I still use that particular bathroom, but never late at night. I really can't think of a logical explanation for this," and was terrified. Coming in at number 2. The face. This user told a story about a family vacation, saying, "When I was 15, my family went for a trip to a hill station named Shimla in India. We booked a suite in a hotel in which the master bedroom had a glass platform 8 by 8 feet sticking about 2 feet outside the room over the valleys, which were hundreds of feet below us. I decided to sleep on the platform overlooking the hills and valleys while my dad slept on the bed. My mother and sister were in the other bedroom. So at around 1:30 at night, I was sleeping on my side facing the glass, which was about 3 inches from my face. Suddenly, my eyes opened and I saw a woman looking at me intently from outside the glass. I still remember clearly her face was totally pale and eyes dark with black hair and some dark clothes on the body. It took me 3 to 4 seconds to realize where I am and that this is not some human looking through a window, but some entity floating outside my room. I shouted as loud as I could and pushed myself back so hard from the glass that I ended up hitting the other end of the room by force. My dad woke up and turned on all the lights, but there was no one to be seen now. That was the last time I ever slept with my window shades open." And last up in our number 1 spot, the body. Sony Millbrook was first reported missing in late January of 2010. News reports say Sony was staying at the Budget Lodge Hotel and was last seen on January 27th. A missing persons case was opened a few days after her disappearance, and family members had later come to clean her belongings from the motel. The case ended abruptly on March 17th when her body was found inside the bed frame in the room she was occupying. It's said her room had been cleaned many times since January 28th, workers told police. The room also had been rented out several times since her disappearance. Motel staff called detectives after a foul odor coming from the room led to the discovery. Police said Millbrook's body had been stuffed in the metal box frame which sits on the floor. The box spring and mattress are also set inside the metal frame. Well, that's all for our list of top 10 unsettling things people spotted in hotels at night. Have you ever had a scary experience in a hotel? Let us know about it in the comments below and make sure to like and subscribe while you're down there. I'm your host Kennedy, and we'll see you next time.